welcome to our YouTube channel. Today, we will explore one of the mysteries surrounding the early Christian movement, the silence of the Apostle Paul regarding the historical Jesus. This video is for Jenna. She commented on the last video, and asked some very interesting questions. She asked the very same questions that scholars have debated for hundreds of years. Jenna, thanks for commenting on one of our videos, and I hope this answers some of your questions. God bless. As a contemporary of Jesus, it is strange that Paul never mentioned him earlier. How did a guy who was in Jerusalem for Passover not know about his triumphant entry into the city, the temple table riot he caused, or the crucifixion? There are several possible explanations for this, so let's explore them in more detail. One possible explanation for Paul's silence about the historical Jesus is that he was not interested in the details of Jesus' life. While Paul was very familiar with the teachings of Jesus and the significance of his death and resurrection, he may not have been particularly interested in the personal details of Jesus' life. Instead, Paul's writings primarily focus on the theological significance of Jesus' death and resurrection, rather than on the historical accuracy of his life. This suggests that Paul may have been more concerned with the spiritual implications of Jesus' teachings than with the historical accuracy of his life. However, it is important to note that this spiritual significance is deeply rooted in the historical events of Jesus' life. Another possible explanation for Paul's silence is that he did not have access to reliable information about the historical Jesus. While Paul was in Jerusalem for Passover, it is possible that he did not have direct contact with Jesus or his followers. Additionally, the early Christian community was not yet well established during Paul's time, so it is possible that he did not have access to reliable sources of information about Jesus. However, it is important to note that Paul did have contact with some of Jesus' disciples, such as Peter and James, and he even mentions them in his writings. So, while Paul may not have had access to all the information about Jesus, he did have some knowledge of his teachings and actions. Another possible explanation for Paul's silence is that he did not want to undermine his own authority as an apostle. If Paul had portrayed himself as a disciple of Jesus or had relied too heavily on Jesus' teachings, he may have been seen as less credible as a leader in the early Christian movement. By emphasizing his own unique understanding of Jesus' message, Paul may have been trying to establish himself as a legitimate authority figure. However, it is also possible that Paul was simply being humble and did not want to draw attention away from Jesus and his teachings. Another possible explanation for Paul's silence is that he was communicating with a specific audience that did not require detailed information about Jesus. Given that Paul was writing to established Christian communities, he may have assumed that his readers were already familiar with the basic details of Jesus' life and teachings. In this case, Paul may have felt that it was unnecessary to provide additional information about Jesus. However, it is also possible that Paul was simply trying to keep his letters short and focused on the main theological points that he wanted to make. In conclusion, while the silence of Paul about the historical Jesus remains a mystery, there are several possible explanations, each with their own nuances and complexities. Whether Paul was simply uninterested in the historical details of Jesus' life, did not have access to reliable information, did not want to undermine his own authority, or assumed his audience was already familiar with Jesus, the reasons for his silence are likely multifaceted. Nonetheless, Paul's contributions to the early Christian movement and the development of Christian theology continue to be studied and revered to this day. We hope you found this video informative and engaging. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to our channel for more videos on early Christian history and theology. We welcome your comments and questions, so please leave them in the comments section below. We look forward to hearing from you and to exploring more mysteries together in future videos.